All right, peace. It's your man Just Be Real coming to you live. We're gonna be exposing this man right here, Robert Gallo. I'm gonna expose his ass today. Okay. My heart goes out to the people who lost their lives contracting the AIDS virus, cancer. All those viruses are man-made by that goddamn white man. I know people who have people in their families who have died of breast cancer. I got people in my own family who died of cancer. They wasn't born with that shit. How come these people who made these viruses are not brought upon their crime, are not brought to justice? So, I did a three-part video, a three-part lesson on the AIDS virus, right? Now, before we go into this book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident, or Intentional, by Leonard G. Horowitz. You can get this book on Amazon for like $6. So they made the AIDS virus for black folks in general, for niggas. They tell you. Before we go into this, we're gonna go into this book right here, Black People and Their Place in World History, and let's see. So, former President Richard Nixon was quoted in the Handelman Diary as stating, "The black race is the only race which never founded a civilization." Scientist and Professor R.B. Carrell concludes, quote, "Savages, including the whole Negro race, should, on account of their low mentality and unpleasant nature, be painlessly exterminated." They said that we should be exterminated. They don't want us here. Let's put this to the side. This book is entitled Black People and Their Place in World History. And also, even in here, they talk about the, so you have the Tuskegee Airmen, right? The Tuskegee Airmen were pilots who was flying in the United States military, right? You can look this up on your own, right? Yeah, you can look this up on your own, but I don't have time to go into right now. Alright? And let's put this to the side. And let's go into this book right here. When I read I just got this book in the mail yesterday. And the shit pissed me the fuck off. So it says here that this is in chapter 1, the World Health Organization Theory of AIDS. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, he says theory festered in my mind like a disease. That the AIDS virus was cultured as a biological weapon and then deliberately deployed was unfathomable. How could WHO, or World Health Organization scientists and others in the United States Public Health Service consciously or even unwittingly create such a hideous germ? More inconceivable was the alleged targeting of American homosexuals and black Africans for genocide. They want our asses wiped out. Now, if you've ever seen a movie called Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington, I highly recommend you check this movie out. This movie right here, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington, Philadelphia. And the movie is based upon Tom Hanks playing his lawyer. He's a law firm lawyer, and he has the AIDS virus. Right? Let's go to the plot. So Tom Hanks is playing this man named Andrew Beckett. He's a senior associate at the largest corporate firm in Philadelphia. he hides his homosexuality and his status as an AIDS patient from other members of the firm. A partner in the firm notices a lesion on Andy's forehead. Although Andy attributes the lesion to a racquetball injury, it indicates Kaposi's sarcoma, an AIDS-defining condition. Now, they talk about this word Kaposi's sarcoma in this book that I have. Okay, so watch this movie, right? And they fire him because he has the AIDS virus, and he goes and he sues their ass, and he wins. The outcome, he wins, and he dies at the end of the movie. Okay? All right, so let's go. So, let's go here. Where's the justice at, man? How come these motherfuckers ain't locked the hell up for the crimes they committed? They done got away with scotch-free murder. They done murdered people by the drove with this fucking virus. And I have nothing against homosexuals. I don't give a shit if you gay. You're not bothering me. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who you sleep with. It ain't got nothing to do with me. We've already proven that the AIDS virus is not a homosexual disease. Okay, so let's go here. We're about to dig inside Robert Gallo's ass. Goddamn devil. So, listen to what the Kennedy brothers said. Nostalgic foreshadowing. In retrospect, Ted Kennedy's brother, Bobby, had been considered a showing for defeating Nixon in 1968 presidential election. He was assassinated not long after Dr. Martin Luther King was shot and killed. Besides embodying the Kennedy mystique, Bobby was gaining in the polls for being sharply critical of America's increasingly unpopular involvement in Vietnam. In particular, both John and Bobby Kennedy have found the use of chemical and biological weapons abhorrent. Quote, they say these horrors, Bobby said, were the responsibility of all American citizens, not just the administrating policymakers. He says, quote, it is we, he said, who live in abundance and send our young men out to die. It is our chemicals that scorch the children and our bombs that level the villages. He says, quote, we are all participants. I ain't know we are all participants. I ain't participating in the goddamn thing. That's you white folks. That's you. Because it ain't niggas, it ain't black folks that's making these viruses. They just said that the viruses was made predominantly for black folks. Now, because what they do is they take our tax money, they take money out of our taxes and make these fucking diseases. It's always some new shit coming out. Now they got a new disease out called the shingles. Where this shit come from? Now, so you have here President Nixon visits Fort Detrick in 1972, headquarters. This white devil, he was a racist. I didn't vote for this motherfucker because I wasn't born back then. And even if I was, I wouldn't have voted for his ass because I don't vote. So it says here, check this out. Let's go back here. So this man, the author here, he says, this knowledge brought me back to Countway for the final hour of my day. In a mad rush to finding anything Gallo had published, talking about this white devil, right here, this Neanderthal primate, half man, half beast, this white man, it says that, he said, my search led me to a fascinating, disturbing discovery. He says, as this history-making announcement was being made, Gallo was drafting a review article describing his group methods of injecting ribonucleic acids from one strain of viruses into other strains in an effort to create mutants that function just like the AIDS virus. It says, In essence, they developed AIDS-like viruses by the early 1970s. Their stated purpose was to alter a host's genetic immunity, allegedly to control cancer. Experiments were designed to produce an assortment of lymphocytic leukemia, sarcomas, and opportunist infections in chickens, mice, rats, sheep, cats, monkeys, and humans. 13 years later, President Reagan, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Margaret Heckler held Dr. Gallo for having discovered the virus which causes AIDS. Now let's get into this, dudes. Let's get into this dude. These motherfuckers done got away with scotch-free murder. Scotch-free. And this shit don't piss y'all off? So, this is chapter 5, the Emperor's New Virus. The author says, quote, he said, you discovered what? He's talking to his wife, Jackie Stretton. He says, I found out that Robert Gallo may have created the AIDS virus about a decade before he allegedly discovered it. Okay? It says here that, let's see. He says, quote, you know the old saying, publish or perish? He says, today I discovered that Gallo's lab at the NCI puts AIDS-like viruses together by the mid-1970s. They proudly published it. So what is the NCI? The NCI stands for National Cancer Institute. These fuckers made cancer. So let's go. Let's get it. Okay. So let's go here to chapter 6, right? Chapter 6, Gallo's research pathology. The AIDS, bug, and virus stops here. He says, earlier next morning, I made my way to Countway's Cumulative Index Medicus to look up all of Gallo's earlier work. He said, I started my search in 1965, figuring it would have taken him at least 5 years to establish himself as an expert in the field of retrobiology by 1970. The 1965 and 1966 year book cited nothing Gallo's efforts, but 1967 held 2 such references in what became a long list of Gallo's publications. By day's end, I held a stack of nearly 40 research reports published by Gallo and co-workers before 1975. He says, it took me about 2 weeks of reading with frequent referencing of medical texts of explanations to technical information that I found difficult to understand. My early lessons in biochemistry, cell physiology, genetics, and virology all need refreshing. Let's drop down here. He says, I began my review of Gallo's papers by organizing them chronologically. I read each paper, highlighted important details in yellow, then noted the purpose, conclusion, and potential relevance to the development of AIDS-like viruses. In the end, he said, I held 6 pages of tables summarizing the data. All right? So you got the introduction to retrobiology, a fundamental understanding of what HIV is and how it works is required before discussing the development of AIDS-like viruses by Gallo and his co-workers. The AIDS virus is an extremely unique germ. Most astonishing is that it incorporates its elements that cause normal white blood cells to produce more viruses through a somewhat unnatural, uniquely backwards process. One of HIV's main components is a single chain of genetic material. This single strand is called RNA, short for ribonucleic acid. Its sugar is combined with chemical molecular rings called purines and pyrimidines. Now we're gonna jump over here, right? We're gonna jump over here and we're gonna go here to the good part. So here is the replication of the AIDS virus. So whoever's a scientist knows what this is. So it's pretty much like an ovum, like a woman's cell. The woman's ovum, right? And you have the sperms, and then something has to get inserted into there to fuck with the cell. Right? And here's the DNA. Here's a model of the DNA, the double helix, right? Here's the chart. You scientists out there, you know what this stuff is. I'm not a scientist. I just read the information and put the shit together. So, let's go. So this motherfucker, Gallo came up with leukemia. That's cancer. He came up with cancer. It says here that this is a theory Gallo advanced first in 1972 during the war on cancer in order to explain retroviruses related to cancer such as lymphoma. You have lymphoma, right? Leukemia and sarcoma. 12 years later, he advanced the same theory to explain AIDS. Now, let's read this. Gallo's cancerous creations. In 1971, the year following the $10 million DoD appropriation for the development of AIDS-like viruses, the NCI, or the National Cancer Institute, acquired the lion's share of the 4th District's facilities, and the cell tumor biology laboratory output increased as measured by the publication of 8 scientific articles by Gallo and his co-workers, compared to at most 4 in previous years. Among Gallo's earliest reports was the discovery that by adding a synthetic RNA and cat leukemia virus template to human type C viruses, those associated with cancers of lymph nodes, the rate of DNA production and subsequent proviruses and viruses reproduction increased as much as 30 times. Gallo and company reported that such a virus may cause many cancers besides leukemias and lymphomas, including sarcomas. Regarding Gallo, widely accepted 1983 speculation that the AIDS virus arose from an African monkey virus that naturally jumped species and then was carried by Portuguese seamen to Japan. In 1971, he and his team published a seemingly conflicting statement. It says, quote, only one virus of 27 then known RNA retroviruses, which contain reverse transcriptase, they wrote, does not seem to be oncogenic cancer-causing to Simian foamy virus. So Simian, that's a monkey foamy virus. It says, at the same time, Simian foamy viruses, or monkey foamy viruses, were known to be common, humanly benign vaccine contaminants. Had the Simian virus simply jumped species, he says, then I consider it is doubtful it would have gained the cancer-causing capabilities seen in AIDS. Additional mutations would have been needed to make it so carcinogenic. He says, then suddenly there it was. He says, Mamma Mia, I exclaimed. I can't believe he published this. Gallo and company included frequent co-author Robert Ting from Lytton Bionetics, reported modifying simian monkey viruses by infusing them with cat leukemia RNA to make them cause cancers as seen in people with the AIDS virus. Are you hearing this? Are you hearing what these people are doing? What they have done? It's not just the U.S. that's involved in this shit. It's the whole goddamn world. Every government, every country has something to do with the AIDS virus. Let's keep on going. Furthermore, Gallo and his co-worker, Saituko Fujike, this Chinese person, concluded from studies conducted in late 1969 and early 70 that they would need to further evaluate the functional significance of the tRNA changes in tumor cells. To do this, they designed an experiment in which specific tumor cell tRNAs were added to direct normal cells. They explained that one way of doing this was to use viruses to deliver the foreign cancer-producing tRNA to normal cells. So it says, at the bottom, it's in the footnote, it says the word Simian or Simian before monkey introduced by the mass media is actually redundant, since most people now associate the two. However, particularly in connection with the origin of the AIDS virus, the phrase simian monkey will be used in this book to mean just monkey. So when you see this simian or simian, that means a monkey. So you have here, this is what they say the possible origin of the HTLV, that's the AIDS virus. So it says ancestral origin. They say old world primate, and then a cattle, and then go from the primate to an African man, right? And then it jumps. The primate goes down to coastal in Japan, and then the African man gets the virus, and he takes that shit to Portuguese, right? And then you gotta include the slave trade, right? And then he brought the shit to America. This diagram was presented by Dr. Robert Gallo of the National Cancer Institute during his introductory speech before a meeting on human T-cell leukemia viruses at the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in New York. Right? This is bullshit he presented. It's garbage. Trash. Now, let's keep on going. He says, these experiments I realized could have easily established the technology for the development of HIV, allegedly of monkey virus descent, which similarly delivers reverse transcriptase and a foreign cat leukemia sarcoma-like RNA to normal human white blood cells. Obvious link to NATO. Who is NATO? NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It says that same year, Gallo and his co-workers presented research describing the experimental entry of bacterial RNA to humans and to human white blood cells before a special symposium sponsored by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. The paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences discussed several possible mechanisms prompting the entry, of foreign nucleic acids into lipocytes. He says, I flash back to my knowledge of the controversial symposium on the entry and on Council of Foreign Nucleic Acids held on October 4th and 5th, 1969 at Fort Detrick, and noted Gallo's link to this work. Here was documented evidence that senior investigator Robert Gallo presented the methods and materials used to produce AIDS-like viruses before NATO military scientists at the NATO International Symposium on Uptake of informative molecules by living cells in Belgium in 1970. Okay? He says, I sat stunned while reading that Gallo and his co-workers had also published studies identifying the mechanisms responsible for reduced amino acids and protein synthesis by T lymphocytes required for immune system failure, the specific enzymes required to produce such effects, along with a base pair switch mutation in the genes of white blood cells to produce the small DNA changes needed to create extreme immune system failure, and the methods by which human white blood cells DNA degradation and immune system decay may be prompted by the pooling of nucleic acids, purine bases, or the addition of specific chemical reagents. It says a subsequent study published in 1970 by Gallo and his colleagues identified RNA-dependent DNA polymerases. Gallo's team noted that this enzyme was responsible for gene amplification and biological cytodifferentiation, the development of unique white blood cell characteristics including cancer cell production, and leukemiogenesis, the production of leukemia. Another of the studies identified L. asparaginase synthesis, an important enzyme that, if blocked, will cause treatment-resistant leukemias and other cancers. Just what the DoD ordered, I recall. Make a new informative microorganism, most important that it might be refractory to the immunological and therapeutic processes upon which we depend to maintain our relative freedom for infectious diseases. So here you go here. Figure 6.5, development of AIDS-like viruses by Robert Gallo and associates at the National Cancer Institute and Lytton Bionetics. So you have here the rhesus monkey. Now, go back to my lessons on forbidden archaeology, part 1 and part 2. Why are they doing this? So it says here, in 1971, Gallo and co-workers reported that a simian or monkey foamy virus called SFV, a common contaminant of monkey kidney cells used to make vaccines, was the one only of 27 then known retroviruses containing reverse transcriptors that could not cause cancers in humans. For this reason, little attempt to remove them from cancer virus cell cultures and viral vaccine was made. All right, so you have the SV40, that's the monkey virus, right? S40, SFV contaminants, and then it says here that, so you have the monkey, right? They got shit in them. And it says Gallo's group at the NCI at Lytton Bionetics also experimented with other monkey viruses, SV40, and developed recombinants, i.e. mutants, of these and other viral nucleic acids, including those that cause cat and chicken leukemia, and the prominent features of AIDS, including white blood cell dysfunction, sarcomas, progressive wasting, and ultimate death. All this in the likely presence of easily mutated SFV retrovirus contaminants. Right? So you got the monkey, you got the cat. It says, finally, these and other NCI investigators injected such mutant viruses into human white blood cell cultures to enable them to infect humans and even transmit these same diseases. So you got the human white blood cell culture, right? So they're taking these animals, viruses, and injecting them inside the man, inside the people. It says this work foreshadowed the observation made 10 years ago by the CDC's chief AIDS researcher Don Francis, who noted the laundry list of feline leukemia-like diseases associated with AIDS. You see that? So you got the RD114 cat leukemia sarcoma RNA suitable for humans, the 70S RNA found in chickens immunodeficiency retrovirus, right? Viral shell or envelope proteins produced in human white blood cell cultures functionally similar to HIV's GP120s. Right? Let's keep on going here. So it says that creating more AIDS-like viruses. Okay? By 72, Gallo and co-workers studied portions of simian monkey and mouse salivary, or that means spit gland tumor viruses to determine differences in RNA activity between infected versus uninfected cancer cells. They wrote, quote, by studying viral or cellular mutants or cell surrogates, which have conditional variations in virus-specific cellular alterations, it should be possible to be more precisely determine. It should be possible to more precisely determine the biological significance of the RNA variation reported here. It says the group was trying to determine the importance of various viral genes on the development of human cancers and immune system collapse. Okay? He says, from this work, I also realized Gallo was actually cloning monkey viruses as early as 1970. Okay? So, this man came up with the AIDS virus. Not just him, but other people before, but people as well. They all had their hands in it. He says, in conclusion, I learned that Gallo and his group of researchers created numerous AIDS-like viruses for more than a decade before Luc Montagnier announced the discovery of LAV. What is LAV? LAV stands for, this is research you niggas supposed to be doing. LAV stands for what? LAV, here's the chart. Where to that? Let's see. Lymphadenopathy associated virus. Okay. Now, this man had an interview with Dr. Robert Strecker, right? He had an interview with this man. Okay. And you have here theoretic manufacture of AIDS-like viruses from bovine leukemia and sheep business viruses. So you have bovine leukemia viruses. Strecker theorized that bioweapon researchers began by mixing bovine leukemia viruses, which they knew were T-cell attackers, with sheep business viruses, which were recognized T-cell destroyers. They thus produced bovine business virus. And then you have sheep business virus. Next, in order to get these viruses across the species barrier and infect human cells, Strecker reported that researchers may have cultured them with herpes viruses or human white blood or human white blood cells. So you have people who has herpes. That's the virus that was made. It says the viruses were thus repackaged. Herpes viruses envelopes, for instance, then contain genes for bovine business virus, which could have easily created a virus that did everything the AIDS virus did. Okay? Diagram depicts the theoretic manufacture of AIDS-like viruses according to Robert Strecker, beginning with the bovine leukemia virus and sheep business virus. Support for this theory was presented by Fort Detrick's National Center Institution, researchers, and things of that nature. Okay? So he's having a conversation with Robert Strecker. And they came out with another disease called Parvo 2. That was a disease. That was a disease that was used to wipe out dogs. I'm not making this shit up. I'm not making this shit up, man. This don't make no goddamn sense. So you have the IARC and Africans and AIDS. Strecker's theory that the IARC brought AIDS to Africa is based on the knowledge that the organization, along with the Cancer Division of the WHO, worked with the International Union Against Cancer, a non-governmental voluntary agency devoted solely to promoting the campaign against cancer in its research, therapeutic, and preventive aspects. The NCI reported that the IARC was established in 1965 under the auspices of the WHO, or the World Health Organization, intentionally sponsored by the 5 most active NATO countries: the Federal Republic of Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, and United States, and based in Lyon, France. IARC began work with a budget of $75,000 per year. The budget for 1973 was $3.5 million, as 10 other countries joined the organization, including the Soviet Union. Indeed, when attention began to focus on the apparent link between virus infections and cancer, IARC focused its research efforts principally on Africa. So it says, despite the existence of cancers in most parts of the world, IARC targeted cancer and liver, esophageal cancer and liver cancer back in black African populations. The NCI reported the incidence of cancer of the esophagus shows very wide geographic variations. It has also increased significantly in recent years in certain population groups, notably the black community in the United States, for as yet undetermined reasons. Now, let's go here. I'm just jumping around because I'm still reading this. Now let's go to let's go back here. So right here you have this chart, figure 6.8, right? And you have here the earlier research of Dr. Robert Gallo at the National Cancer Institute and its implication in relation to the theory of synthetic HIV development. So you have all these, you have the years of subject of the investigation, studies, and conclusions. All right, and I read this part already. Okay, all right, and he's telling you clear as day that these motherfuckers came up with the AIDS virus, cancer, leukemia. That's another form of cancer. Any virus you can think of is man-made. Okay? Let's see here. So they got more than just one virus. Yeah, more than just one virus. Okay? Now, so he's having a conversation with Dr. Strecker. He had an interview with this dude. Right? Now I'm looking for something. I'm looking for something real quick. He even talks about, Henrietta Lacks. So it says here the conspiracy of cells. So Robert Strecker is saying, he's talking to the author of this book in a conversation. He says, plus they were growing in cattle naturally. And we were using fetal calf serum as growth medium for every cell culture in the world. The theory was that since these were extracted from fetuses, they were sterile, but in fact they weren't. It says because the AIDS virus, let me see, I'm sorry, let me go back. Okay, because they weren't. It says because the AIDS virus and BLV1 and BLV2 were being transferred in the gene line, and so they were potentially transferring these viruses into every tissue culture throughout the world. He says, so it gets very mixed up. You got to read the book called Conspiracy of Cells by Michael Gold. This is a story about Walter Nelson Reese, who worked in the highest contaminated laboratory in the NIH, the BSL-4 lab. That's where they kept their tissue cultures, and they had like 300 to 400 of them. And in 1981, Walter Nelson Reese published a paper in Science saying that over a third of them were Henrietta Lack cell contaminated cell lines. Henrietta Lack was a black lady who worked at Hopkins in the late 1950s. She died around 1965 or so while she was still working there from a tumor of the uterus that literally ate her alive. And that tissue was the first human tissue that was grown in perpetuity in tissue cultures. Because up till then, they will only grow 1 or 2 divisions and then die. Her tissues called HELA. Her tissues called HELA. That's where HELA comes from. Henrietta Lack. It says that was the first cancer cells that would grow into tissue cultures. Now, those cell lines were sent all over the world, and what happened was that scientists were contaminating their tissue culture cells with HELA accidentally. And in the early 1970s, he says, I think, or 72 under Nixon, the Russians sent us 6 cell lines that they thought contained human cancer causing viruses. And those were sent to Walter Nelson Reese, who was a keeper of the cell lines in the United States. He was in San Francisco, and it was his job to keep the cell lines straight and not contaminate them. That was during the Great War on Cancer. That's where all this stuff came from. The NIH was funded. So who was the NIH? Let me see. The NIH is a National Institute of Health. So the National Institute of Health, the NIH, was funded with $72 billion to find a cancer virus. Nixon was trying to steal the show from Ted Kennedy by coming up with a virus and vaccine against cancer. They said, quote, let's find a virus. So that's where the big cancer virus hypothesis came from. Now, when we got these 6 cell lines from the Russians, Reese started looking at them and discovered that they were all female. And they said then he discovered that they were all black. And so he questioned, how many black females are there in Moscow who have cancer? And of course, what he discovered was that these were all Henrietta Lack cell contaminants that contain monkey viruses. And so all that stuff the Russians sent to us, in fact, was a fraud. But it was a very embarrassing thing because they thought they had got there first, and what we proved was that they were awful scientists. So then what Walter Reese Nelson did is that he started looking for all the cell lines of the United States and closely. And then he discovered that at the NIH, over a third of them were HELA contaminated. What happened was that when they opened their tissue culture lids, they were aerosolized small particles into the air that would float around and drop into another cell line. And HELA is so aggressive that it would literally take over. And so it just takes one cell to drop into another cell line, and it takes over. and it amalgamates, or it mixes, and those were called HELA contaminated. Okay? So they came up with the polio virus, all that shit. So let's go here to and I'm gonna cut my video off. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see. All right, let's go here. This is where I left off at. You got the polio vaccine theory of AIDS. All right, I read all that. You have here. Okay. So let's read this part real quick. So he says here that putting all the facts together, I now understood how humanly benign DNA monkey viruses like SV40, SIV, and other common retroviruses, vaccine contaminants like SFV could have, over a period of a few decades, become RNA retroviruses that, through contaminated vaccines, spread to millions of people around the world. SV40 may have been a building block for SIV, which was 72% identical to HIV-2 and 43% to HIV-1. The highly unstable monkey retrovirus SFV, or other possible contaminants, including leukemia, sarcoma, and immunodeficiency mutants, Gallo and others put together, could have easily recombined with SV40, SIV, or SFV. Together, they might have undergone the laboratory transformations and vaccine transmissions resulting in the AIDS pandemic today. In late 1995, Bill Narayan, a Kansas Medical Center virologist, reported a similar transformation in reverse, making SIV that can cause monkey AIDS from HIV-1. He used a hybrid of SIV and HIV-1 that contained the core of the monkey virus and the outer coating of the human virus. Okay, so he's talking about this stuff, right? And then he says, after digesting all the facts, I concluded that claims of the HIV existence prior to the 1970s had to be seriously questioned, and those who made them, particularly Gallo and Exus, appeared to have on several occasions incriminated themselves. Up to my neck in this world of cancer research, scientific misconduct, and counterintelligence, it seemed very hard to distinguish incompetence from duplicity. So this dude need to be locked up. He need to be brought to justice. Why is he not brought to justice? What's up? What's the holdup? What's happening? They have gotten away with murder. If you got people in your family who has the AIDS virus, who has sickle cell, who has the shingles, who has the whooping cough, all those diseases, when we catch colds, those are all viruses made by men. Let's see. One second. Yeah, they're taking out money. Excuse me. like with smallpox and shit like that. So it says, like, check this out. It says, besides assembling teams of scientists to develop, test, and standardize new and ancient drugs, the WHO, or the World Health Organization, applies similar administrative leadership to develop plans for attacking all the woes of humanity. Polio, yellow fever, chlorea, smallpox, whooping cough, tetanus, measles, anthrax, typhoid, tuberculosis, influenza, and even a common cold were all targeted. The WHO approach to controlling communicable diseases was spelled out by their Assistant Director General, Dr. A.M. Payne. Massive campaigns against certain communicable diseases require an initial attack sustained uninterruptedly over a relatively large area within a short period of time. In smallpox, for instance, the buildup of new susceptibles in the absence of routine vaccination creates an explosive situation resulting in the familiar pattern of epidemic of smallpox followed by epidemics of vaccination. I'm just giving you the whole layout. Like I said, man, I have not even finished reading this damn book. You know what I'm saying? Like here, it says a few others stated that the WHO, who was funding several programs designed to evaluate the specific disease vulnerabilities of minority groups, from American Indians to African natives, through the collection and analysis of gene pools and blood supplies. Okay, so the Nazis was involved in this shit too. If you don't think I'm lying, go get a book called Germany's Black Holocaust. I did a video on this before. Germany's Black Holocaust. And you have Germany's Black Holocaust. I got this book at the crib, right? And these people went into Africa between 1890 to 1945, way before HELA came on the scene, doing experiments on black people. And in the 1890s, blacks were tortured in Germany, concentration camps in Southwest Africa, now called Namibia, when Adolf Hitler was only a child. Colonial German doctors conducted unspeakable medical experiments on these emaciated, helpless Africans. What does emaciated mean? It means starving. Helpless Africans decades before such atrocities were ever visited upon the Jews. Thousands of Africans were massacred. They were massacred. They were slaughtered. Okay? So it says that these white folks, just like how they do, they take their bullshit ass Christianity religion to Africa and try to convert these niggas over. So that shit didn't work. So they say, hey, we gotta come with another way to get these niggas out of here. So it says here, he says, yeah, I hate to say it, but maybe there's something to his theory, talking about Robert Strecker. The smallpox eradication program used vaccines made from anti-serum made largely in the United States and given for free to African countries, including Kenya, Ethiopia, Guinea, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Rwanda. So they went into Africa giving out vaccines, pumping these niggas over this shit. This is ridiculous, man. You got the CIA, they in Africa. What the fuck they doing in Africa? You got the CIA, they in Africa. The CIA doing Nixon's, Ford, Carter. It said the CIA doing the Nixon, Ford, and Carter and Reagan administration played with the fires of a revolutionary black consciousness to expand America's political and economic power in Africa. Oh my God, I got a long way to go in this book. So, have you ever had the measles? Have you ever had the measles as a baby, as growing up? Where that shit come from? The measles and the chicken pox. Those diseases come from animals. And they pump that shit into you when you're a baby. Some of you got all these shots and flu shot. If the doctor tells you you want to take the flu shot, any shot, no. Tell him no. Hell no. I don't need to take that shit. So you have two photos, National Archives, Nixon Project, right? All these white people. John Mitchell, Henry Kissinger, Melvin Leard, Richard Nixon, and William Rogers aboard Air Force One, 1969. After feeding Nixon intelligence for his 1968 campaign, Kissinger was appointed National Security Advisor. Not long after, he ordered Defense Secretary Leard to reassess America's biological weapons capabilities and then discovered the option of viruses for covert operations. Deputy Chief Alexander Haig, Lawrence Eagle Berger, and Kissinger, 1969. Colonel Haig, the evidence indicates, was most plausibly deep throat. He coordinated secret projects including the White House wiretaps, Cambodian bombings, and very likely the assassination of J. Edgar Hoover, along with the downfall of Richard Nixon. Then here they go again. Executive Office meeting, 1969. Nixon and Kissinger rambled for hours, engaged in underhanded fantasies, plotted conspiratorial intrigues, and made numerous contradicting decisions. Nixon was openly anti-Semitic. He was racist. He was a homophobic. Both men believed black nationalism was a communist plot, and population control was a national security necessity. So Richard Nixon was a racist. He was a homophobic. He didn't like homos. He didn't like homosexuals. So he was on board with the virus. He played a part in it. I'm not making this shit up. You all should be pissed off. What is the Rockefellers doing involved with eugenics? He said, while pursuing the internet, I came upon a most relevant article concerning the Rockefeller Foundation for Support for Eugenics, the movement aimed at killing or sterilizing people whose hereditary, according to the author Anton Chaikin, made them a public burden. The Rockefeller Foundation, Chaikin Chronicle, became the prime promoter of depopulation activities by the United Nations. Moreover, evidence showed the foundation and its corporate, medical, and political associates organized the racial mass murder program of Nazi Germany. You have SS Himmler, Heinz Himmler. All these people are involved. They have their hand in trying to get rid of black folks. Because they know who the hell we are. And once again, I'm going to go back to this, the sacred N-word. They know that we come from the source. This is not an Egyptian word. Niggas, black folks came up with this word. And here's my video. The second N-word. So when you click on the second N-word, and all the references are here, and it says NGR, the meaning of the word nigger. N is from or belonging, G equals first or beginning, Ra or R is the source. So NGR means from or belonging to the source. So if you're a black person, if you're a Negro, if you're a so-called African or African American, you belong to the source. You come from the source. because you are the source. And they're trying to wipe out the source. They're trying to wipe out God. With that being said, peace. Click and subscribe, like and thumbs up. See you in the next one. Peace.